Hello, welcome to the CLSR, and I'm your host, the counselor. Today we're going to be talking about hate. See, we all want to be liked and admired by many of our peers. However, there are times when you're going to be hated, and sometimes you make a mistake, you mess up, you do people wrong, and it just comes back at you. And then there's just times you can't help it. People just hate you for no reason at all. Maybe you look good. Maybe you're stylish. Maybe you got a little bit of money. Maybe you're taller than them. Maybe you're prettier than them or more handsome. Or maybe you're smarter. Whatever. Or maybe you're liked by a lot of people and those people are called haters. Let's face it, people. No one wants to be hated. We generally want to be liked. We want to get along. We want to be a part of groups. We want to be involved. However, this is not always possible. Sometimes when people hate you, they show it and it impacts your life. You could have someone that you love hate you for no reason at all. And you still love them, but they're showing their hate for you. You could be in a relationship where they have this, quiet resentment and it's just playing out in your life and you're just not happy. Basically, when you're hated, sometimes there's things that you feel you can't cope with because it's so much, it's too much at times. These feelings of hate and these expressions of hate. Oftentimes we're in denial because someone's showing this hate and it's so aggressive, and we sometimes can't even believe that this is what's happening. Like, especially if you didn't do anything and you're just being yourself. And sometimes we dumb down the situation for our friends or our peers or our family members so that we're not hated. Well, I gotta tell you, it's not easy being in that situation where people hate you, but you're gonna have to handle it. You're gonna have to learn how to confront haters. Like, even when it comes to social media, see, that's a new method of communication that it's it could be quite deadly, sharp, in fact. Think about it. People send comments now. I mean, we've become so efficient at reading comments and being able to depict the comments, the sarcasm just in people's messages, that you're just like, what's with this person? What's their problem? Why do they hate? Like, come on, what's the problem here? Well, the truth is, sometimes you can't change it, so you're going to have to deal with it, cope with it. You know, you're going to have to learn. Like, in social media, there's cyber bullies out there, and it's impacting our youth, it's impacting adults, even to the point where you just want to shut it off. However, the world is becoming increasingly complex and you just can't shut it off. You can't get rid of it because it's part of your everyday life. Well, you can't turn it off, but really, you know, being in social media, it's a part of our regular grind now. It's part of our regular routine. So most people experience being hated at some point in their lives, and that's just the truth. See, in cases where you've wronged someone, you should apologize and do your best to make amends. However, if someone hates you for other reasons that don't affect him or her, like your identity or taste in clothing, don't change who you are. Instead, do your best to protect yourself, both mentally and physically, from the haters. Just remember that it's impossible to please everyone, and try not to let unjustified hostility get you down. I mean, see, when people are hating on you, so many of us bend over backwards to try to accommodate them, until sometimes it becomes a breakdown situation where you're just like, I don't know what else to do. Well, see, that's why the counselor's here, because we need to talk about that. How are we going to cope with this situation? Because it's happening out there. And I think society has to take some blame, right? We have the propaganda machine where all these products are being sold to us. People have to get the next best thing. We're competing with each other. Half of us don't even know how to get along with each other. Like, I mean, I know a colleague of mine, and they just deal with counseling with females. And they talk about the relationships, how challenging it could be, like just how strenuous it could be, women getting along with each other even in their early high school days. Those could be some of the most treacherous times. There's a lot of hating going on, and it's understandable. Like, look what's going on. The advertising got to be better, gotta look this, gotta look that, gotta do this to yourself. You know what I mean? Gotta purchase this to make yourself feel better. It's all about competing with each other. So it's quite jealousy in relationships. So we live in a very competitive world. So you're going to have haters. It's almost like people today are never really satisfied, completely satisfied. There's always something. And that's what starts to drive you a little mad. So you got to learn to handle the haters indirectly, possibly, if you have to. I mean, ignore them if possible. Don't even bother to engage with your haters. Bullies often feed upon the thrill of provoking a reaction. See, quite often, haters are trying to validate themselves by making you feel bad. This can spiral into a vicious circle where the hater insults you. You react, and the hater reacts to your reaction. See, bullies are a special type of hater. For someone to be a bully, their actions must be repetitive and there must be some type of power imbalance involved. While all bullies are haters, not all haters are bullies. Like, your little brother can call you names without being a bully, since you're probably bigger and stronger than he is, right? If a classmate says one nasty thing to you, then she isn't a bully. In general, passive methods are better when dealing with bullies, while confrontation may be best to address other kinds of haters. See, if your hater is annoying you in class, pretend you can't hear him or her. If your hater provokes you or tries to get your attention, do not respond in any way. I gotta tell you something, people. I remember when I was younger, I had this bully, and this is the truth. And I remember there was a student, and I can't name his name, Lonnie Talbot. And what happened was, he was huge. He was big. This kid was like a man, okay? He was like, it seemed like when we were in grade 5, he was like 6'3", like a real grown, built, strong man. And this man had adult strength. And I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of, as much as you tried to get away from this boy, he sat behind me. Okay. And I'm going to tell you the truth. So what happened was, he sat behind me and he wasn't too smart. And that's just the truth. Some people really struggle. So he was one of those bullies that was huge. And he sat behind me. And so when it came to doing tests, they did the line paper 1 to 10, and then the teacher would give an oral test. And see, I remember the first question he would be on me, he'd be like, "What's number 1?" And I would say, "I don't know number 1," right? And then, he would kick my chair behind me. But I wasn't, you know what I mean? I was really stubborn back then. I didn't care, right? So then when the teacher asked what number 2 was, I said, "I don't know number 2." And he kicked my chair again, right? So he was getting really frustrated because I wasn't really giving him the answers. And then when the teacher was asking the question or posing a question for number 3, he said, "What's number 3?" And I said, "I don't know number 3." And then he kicked the chair and he said, "Listen, you know what? I'm beating you up after school because and you're not helping me. I'm getting you." So right there, that really made me sweat, right? Could you imagine the stress and anxiety? He was a real hater. He was a bully too. Everything I did, he was in my face. And some of you might know what I'm talking about. So anyways, to make a long story short, we battled. After school, we were fighting. I tried my best to avoid, but man, I just spent years fighting this guy. And a lot of the times he won. And you know what? I learned a lot from that. But sometimes you just need some strategy, some help. And you know what? Unfortunately, back then, it was really about just battle. Break it down. You got to deal with it. You know what I mean? You got to take your lumps. Today, a lot of them don't take their lumps or their bumps. They pick up a gun or something, or They take it to the next level. It's just really sad out there. You know what I mean? It's called the quick fix. Unfortunately, back then, we had a lot of problems, but we did handle it. You know what I mean? It wasn't nice. Seems like there's a lot of bullying going out there, but there are some haters. See? So remember that ignoring hate is not best in all circumstances. If the person who hates you starts to physically or verbally assault you, it's best to get other people, especially in authority figures like a teacher or work supervisor, involved. And I can tell you right now, that is strongly recommended. But there are going to be occasions where it might not work and you have to take it to a different level. And don't kind of subscribe to this snitch thing, especially when it comes to your health. And I know one thing that really got to me was in, I think it was in Hamilton in Canada. There was a young boy who was being bullied. And I think I mentioned this on the podcast before. And he was a poor young man. And the kids were so bad at the school that he was being bullied by two brothers. And one of the older brothers, it got to the point where this boy, the school was told, and administrators knew, teachers knew, and teachers are trying to handle it, I guess, the best way that they can, by warning the boy or talking to the boy. But what I'm saying is this young man took it to a next level where he threatened this boy all the time. And he ended up getting to the point where he became so aggressive that he ended up, the boy's mother went to pick him up, the victim mother went to pick him up one day, and as he was getting in the car, this young man stabbed him. The older brother stabbed him and killed him. And I just thought to myself, a lot of people are looking at the teachers and trying to put the blame game into play. And I'm just saying that it was terrible. It's a tragedy, but I'm going to tell you, if the school does not do anything, get the police involved. Do not wait. If your child or if you're in a relationship where you're dealing with somebody who's really aggressive, and there's signs, people. It's called antecedents. That's antecedents are things, indicators that lead up to the behavior. If you have them, and sometimes, it might not be direct, where somebody might be abusing you for like a week or two on and off or once a week, and you can handle that. But my point is, I want you to kind of draft, write it down, what incidents are happening, and then you'll see how frequent it is and how your tolerance level is. But above all else, take everything seriously. Take it to the level that you have to take it. And I know when we say the police, listen, the police are there, and a lot of times if they're not helping and they only have so many answers for you, because a lot of them really are only going to do response, intervention. Really, like if you're in a situation, then you get hurt, then they respond. Well, a lot of the times they try to, but a lot of times it's hard for them to see what level, because some people take it from 0 to 100 real quick, and it's hard to see what they're doing. And I see that's what this young man did. You know what I mean? Who was frustrated. You could imagine the anger in this young boy that stabbed his victim. But what I'm saying to you is, if you can't get the police, do everything that you can. I mean, don't take anything lightly, especially when it comes to your children. If your children are acting differently, because they might be hated on in school. School is a challenge. So, I mean, sometimes you got to get in there and find out what's going on. A lot of times we like to listen to the teachers, because you got to listen to respect the teachers. But every once in a while, go and check in on what's going on with your kids. Not just if you notice the behavior change. Go in there and see what's going on in the school. You have a right to go into the classroom, into the school. Maybe observe them. Don't wait for things to go wrong. I mean, keep an eye on things. That's all I can tell you. Keep an eye on your fries, because there's a lot going on out there. And like I said, with this media and this mass communication, and people can contact each other in the snap of a button. Kids could be in bathrooms, texting each other and bullying it. Like, it's just wild what's going on out there. Access to everything. So there's plenty of opportunity, maybe even more opportunity, 10 times more opportunity to engage in this bullying and this hating, right, than there was even 20 years ago, due to our access to everything. You can bully people across the planet. But the point is that haters, a lot of them don't stop. And sometimes you trying to stop them can be a real challenge, but you got to take it to the limit. You got to get everyone involved, even if it's family members. But go through the proper channels, see if you get somewhere. But watch yourself, because I'm telling you, there's some real haters out there. And there's wonderful people out there too. But I mean, when you're in those situations where you got to protect yourself, that's just what you got to do. So I really suggest that when it comes to these haters, you project some confidence. See, self confidence is your best weapon against a hater. Laugh off insults, drop witty comebacks, and stay positive. If you don't let your confidence slip, a hater is more likely to get frustrated, simply start leaving you alone. Like if someone insults you about maybe your artwork, take the high road. Try saying, like, I'm sorry you feel that way, but art is subjective. I'm just doing my best to improve, though, you know. So I would just really appreciate any constructive criticism you may have. Now, I know this sounds a little bit formal, but I'm just trying to give you the impression that there are other comments that you can make. Like if someone calls you weird, you could say, maybe a little, but I like who I am. What's wrong with being weird? You know what I mean? I mean, like, there are people who are going to challenge you. And if it comes to you being an adult and kids are talking down to you and calling you weird, no, you got to put a stop to that real quick. You got to get on that. You got to say, no, you're going to respect me. And I'm not going to be listening and tolerate any foolishness. There has to be limits, okay? So what I'm saying is, I'm not asking you to take too much, but you got to have some tolerance, and decide how much you're going to dedicate to this person who's acting out. Sometimes you just got to turn on them and just be like, forget it. I don't even give them any attention at all. See, when you are walking by someone who hates you, don't look down or lean the other way. That kind of posture tells the hater that you're afraid, that you're giving the hater what he or she wants. Instead, stand up tall with your head high. That's what you're going to have to do. You got to project some confidence. And there will be times where sometimes people are just looking for that attention. Like some people just don't get attention. They don't get enough. So they're begging for your attention. They're always trying to do something. So there may be times where you have to avoid the haters. This does not mean that you should hide from anyone. No. You should never let bullies rule your life. Simply try to put yourself into situations that don't require you to interact with these haters. I'm serious. When you're young, you will especially get a lot of hate from people who don't understand your interests and passions. Instead of hanging around these sorts of people, look for ways to pursue these passions outside the scope of their negativity. If you are dealing with especially malicious haters in one of your classes, ask if you can transfer to a different one. If you are facing haters in a club or group, consider whether you can find another group that is not so negative. And if you know that a particular nasty person is always in the same spot every day, do not go to that spot. Find a way around or ask a group of your peers to go past the spot with you. Avoiding the haters is also a great way to boost your self confidence. This gives you an opportunity to pursue your interests without the flood of negative thoughts. See, like if you have a friend, a lot of times these haters, and you know what I'm talking about. Think about yourself being in a group of three, and you have a good friend that you've known for years, but then they have a friend that you're not really too keen on. It wasn't really your friend, but it's their friend. But this third person always has something to say. Always got some input or some sarcastic comment, which they're kind of showing their jealousy. But in the meantime, they're scheming behind your back, or they got that sarcastic look on their face every time you see them. So it's almost like they're vying for that attention for your friend. Meanwhile, that's just been your friend forever, but they're in the loop. See, that's where the challenge comes, right? And then they start doing all that hating, or they're talking negative around you. And then you start to notice that the friend that you've noticed that you've had for years is starting to change a little bit of attitude, right? So sometimes you got to be like, wait a minute. I'm not really about that. You want to get together with me? We could get together. But this person here, I don't feel them. We're not getting along. I can see what's going on. So maybe we could get together without them. And just, you know what I mean? You're going to have to do that. And if that person cannot do that, you got to look out for yourself. You got to look out for your best interest, because you don't want a third party to keep putting you down, and you know they're doing things behind your back or saying things or giving you just a bad feeling. You ever get those bad feelings? And I know some of you do. You get that bad feeling because you got somebody there giving you that in your gut, and you don't like it because you like to be around your friend and be cool. Right? You like to relax. That's what you want to do. You're a good person. You don't want negative vibes. And then there's just some people that carry the negative vibe. That negative vibe is in people and they just carry it. I don't know. Something could have happened to them when they're young. Maybe their relationships haven't worked out, but they're hating. And you just, like I said, sometimes getting out of that situation or making sure that, hey, listen, talk to your friends. Say, we don't really get along. And I'm letting you know this because I'm getting a bad feeling and I'm going to tell you I like being your friend. However, I can't take the negativity. And that's just being real. And if you have a real friend, they'll understand that. All right? Or they won't. But you got to take care of you. And there may be times where you might have to prove them wrong, those haters. See, if your haters are saying that you can't do something, the best way to shut them up might be to show them up. Do the thing that they say you can't do and do it well. Use their hate to fuel your drive. Like, if your haters tell you you'll never be good at sports, you can prove them wrong by working hard. Join a team in a sport of your choice. And if you don't already belong to one, and throw yourself into something. Throw yourself into like a practice if you don't. Get started somewhere. If haters think you are too scared to talk to your crush, let that motivate you into finally asking him or her out. Be aware that proving haters wrong does not always make them stop. In some cases, your success could make the haters even more jealous. This is not a reason to keep yourself from succeeding, but don't do anything just to show them up. Live your life for yourself. Remember, I don't want you going around thinking that every hater you got to go and prove something to. That's not the point at all. But, do your thing. And sometimes those haters that are pushing on you, right? You might challenge yourself and feel good about yourself. And then it might push you to do things that make you feel good and give you some confidence. But don't use that as a motivator all the time. I'm just saying you have a lot of internal personal power that you can come out and go, no, don't be talking about what I can or cannot do. Don't let people tell you what you can or cannot do. And people will always do that. Everybody always has something to say about something, especially about somebody else. Everybody's talking about everybody else but themselves. But they always got an opinion. Everybody has an opinion. See, there are going to be times where you're going to have to muster up some of that gusto, right? That gusto where you have to speak up. If you can't take it anymore, don't. Avoiding haters doesn't always resolve the problem. Find a moment to speak honestly with these people and try to explain where you're coming from. Speak with each other. Speak with the hater as a mature and conscientious equal, no matter how rudely the other person has been in the past. This is especially important for passive haters who may not insult you directly. See, and I really recommend when you're going to take this step, try to get a neutral person involved. Not a loudmouth, not a person that thinks that they can control the situation. A good listener. Try to have a third party as a good listener. Say, hey, listen, I'm going to be talking to this person because you know what? I've just had enough of this foolishness. We're going to have to work this out. And I'm going to really try to be neutral. And I might need you to keep me cool because I might get frustrated and lose it. Because I've really been dealing with this issue for a long time and I just can't take it anymore. But I really want to work it out. I want to get along. And sometimes you got to battle it out and you do get along. Sometimes you got to say, I don't like you doing this. And they might say they don't like you doing that. And you all might get to the war, but I'll tell you right now, the war of words is okay. Sometimes we're afraid of it, but sometimes we got to say what it is because there could be something stuck in their craw. You know what I mean? Something that's been bothering that person. You might have said something you didn't even know you said to that person that got them on this path of anger and hatred. and you didn't even realize it. And then when you have that conversation, it may come out. It doesn't always have to be super nice, but it has to be in control. So maybe you said something to them, and all of a sudden you realize, damn, I didn't really mean to do that. I didn't even know that happened. There could have been a misunderstanding, but if you did it, apologize, work through it. But sometimes you have to get into those verbal confrontations with a third party so that they can keep each other on track. Don't talk off on tangents. Deal with it. All right? Try to work with it. But the truth is, sometimes you're going to have to speak up. Try telling your hater, I've been getting a lot of negative energy from you recently, and I'd appreciate it if you kept those thoughts to yourself. It's childish, and I don't want to have to deal with this anymore. Try to understand why your hater is acting this way. Ask him or her, have I done something to you personally? Something wrong to you? You seem to be taking a lot of negativity out on me, and I really honestly don't understand why. And then you're going to have those people that, you're going to have those people that carry on, and they'll be talking to you about, and you might not even get through to what you really wanted to get through, but you might have a big understanding. The one thing you're going to know is that you walk away knowing if this thing could work or not. That's the one good thing about trying to confront it. Whether it's successful and that person and you come to an understanding, either way, you get to make the rational decision on I'm either going to deal with this person or not. Just based on that communication, I don't think I can. Or maybe, you know what, I'm glad we worked it out. But either way, you're going to come to a conclusion for yourself whether you want to keep indulging this person. Whether this person wants to be around you or not, you might not be able to control. But one thing you can tell yourself is, I got an idea if I'm going to deal with that person. You know what I mean? And actually, from that little communication, I've had enough. Now, I'm going to tell you something right there. Like, this is the thing, too. When I come to talk about haters, you got to be careful, too, when it comes to speaking up. Because there are some real aggressive haters out there. And you got to go with that sixth sense, that feeling. And that feeling is if that hater's going to get out of control and get violent or not. Because there are haters that once you get into that verbal confrontation, like black people, we're very smart people, but we have a lot of emotion. Okay. And we don't wear our heart on our sleeves. We got this thing where we don't play. Like, so if it comes down to it, we will battle each other. We'll battle whoever gets in our face. We're prideful people. So there could be some aggression there. People don't like it, but we're in control. But sometimes we can get out of control, like every other race and culture and ethnicity out there. But what I'm saying is we are very sensitive, emotional people at times. And when it comes to battling, we can get to that point, like many cultures. But what I'm saying is, simply put, is that we can be very vocal. The music, the love. We're very expressive people, proud people. Despite what the media says, we're wonderful people. And sometimes we have our verbal arguments, but it doesn't mean we don't love each other. We just sometimes can get a little agitated and get a little heightened in our behavior. Do you understand? And I always say it's okay to be mad. It's okay to be angry. It's what you do with that anger. So what I'm saying is, when you're dealing with certain cultures, just be aware that, you know what? There's certain ones that don't want to play with too much foolishness. They can detect it. When you live the life of people talking behind your back or, misrepresenting you, you're going to be sensitive to that stuff. So we can detect, boom, bull, right off the bat. You understand? So that's one thing we're going to let you know right off the jump, is that we have our respect and we can detect a lot of garbage because a lot of it's been put in out there, especially in North America, on us. We know where we come from. Some of us get a little agitated when we see the foolishness because there's so much of it there. But we're being genuine, and a lot of people say, well, what's the chip on your shoulder? If you got to ask, you don't know and you'll never know. So that's how we flow. So we need to understand that right now. And my whole point is that we have a side to ourselves where there will be times we get hot. And in doing so, we could get a little excited. And and we got to be careful. And if you know that you're going to get a little excited, or if you know you got a family member that gets a little bit excited and they could get a little bit aggressive, then you have to really protect yourself in the sense that you have to bring maybe a support person. Or better yet, you got to choose your words carefully not to trigger, because a lot of us try to pretend we don't know the other person in the family that usually gets hot-headed or might get a little bit aggressive. But the truth is, most of us know who we're dealing with. If that person's hating on you or getting at you, you have a sense, if they're, especially if they've had past behaviors where they've tore somebody up or got into some physical confrontation, then you have to be mindful. So when I'm talking about speaking and confronting people, you might think that you're going in there to speak, but you have to be mindful of what you say. Okay? So what I mean simply is that be aware of the situation that you're getting yourself into. Make sure that the speaking sticks right there to speaking. If you start to see your voice elevating or the other individual elevating. Now, I'm not just talking about the black culture. I'm talking about anyone who's getting aggressive. Anybody like a boss or somebody who's always been aggressive or who's stalking you or someone who's threatening you. You know what I mean? Or someone who's behaving oddly. Be aware of the situation. Awareness is everything. Do you understand? So when I talk about people that you're trying to resolve your issues with, I'm really talking about being aware of that other person's behavior and their psyche to some extent. Don't go there thinking, well, this person's really aggressive and I could talk them down and I'm going to change them. No, if that person is super aggressive, you don't, and you know that they've gotten really out of control because of certain things that you've said, then you have to keep this in mind. You got to be like, no, this is not something I want to do by myself, or I might not want to do that at all. I just got to move past it. You got to make the best judgment out there, but you got to know who you're dealing with. Okay, period. Well, people, that is part one of haters. And we're going to talk about part two in our next session. And I want to say to my people, I want you to get online, take your time, and go to the clsr.myshopify.com. I said the clsr.myshopify.com, and get yourself a t-shirt, get some gear. Let them know we're here. All right. And be like the wise old bird, please, and spread the word, please. Take care of yourself, people.